Have you ever wondered what would happen if you stopped drinking coffee for an entire month? No morning latte, no afternoon pick-me-up, no espresso before work, just no coffee. For millions of Americans, that sounds almost impossible. In fact, coffee is one of the most popular beverages in the United States. For many people, the day doesn't truly begin until they've had that first cup. The aroma, the warmth, the burst of energy. It becomes more than just a drink. It becomes a daily ritual. But here's the question. Is coffee actually giving you energy? Or is it simply helping you feel normal? The answer may surprise you. Because what happens when you stop drinking coffee isn't always what people expect. Some people experience headaches. Others feel exhausted. Some notice they sleep better. Others discover they were more dependent on caffeine than they ever realized. And by the end of 30 days, many people describe changes they never saw coming. Today, we're going to walk through what may happen when you quit coffee for 30 days, why the first week is often the hardest, and what researchers have learned about caffeine, sleep, energy, and overall health. And make sure you stay until the end, because the biggest surprise doesn't usually happen during the first few days. It often happens during the final week. Let's begin. First, let's understand why coffee has such a powerful effect on the body. Most people think coffee gives them energy. Technically, that's not exactly what happens. Instead, caffeine mainly works by blocking a chemical in the brain called adenosine. Throughout the day, adenosine naturally builds up in your brain. The more adenosine you have, the sleepier you begin to feel. Think of it like sand slowly filling an hourglass. As the day goes on, more sand collects. More adenosine builds up. Your brain starts preparing for rest. Then comes your morning coffee. Caffeine temporarily blocks adenosine from doing its job. The sleepiness doesn't disappear. It's simply being masked. That's why coffee often makes you feel more alert, not because it's creating new energy, but because it's temporarily reducing your awareness of tiredness. But wait, that's not the most surprising part. Because the caffeine doesn't stay in your body for just an hour or two. Depending on the person, it can remain in the body for several hours. For some people, even an afternoon cup of coffee may still be affecting the body at bedtime. And that's where the story begins to get interesting. Now imagine you've been drinking coffee every morning for years, maybe even decades. Your brain has adapted. It has become used to caffeine showing up every single day. Then one morning, nothing. No coffee, no caffeine. How do you think your brain responds? For many people, not very happily. Welcome to day one. Within the first 12 to 24 hours after stopping coffee, many regular coffee drinkers begin noticing changes. Maybe it's a dull headache. Maybe it's feeling unusually tired. Maybe it's difficulty concentrating. Or maybe it's simply feeling like something is missing. These symptoms are commonly associated with caffeine withdrawal, especially in people who regularly consume moderate to high amounts of caffeine. Now here's something important. Experiencing withdrawal doesn't necessarily mean coffee is bad. It simply means your body has adapted to receiving caffeine on a regular basis. Think about it like moving the furniture in your living room. For years, your brain has been walking the same path. When everything suddenly changes, it needs time to adjust. But here's where things become really interesting. For many people, day 2 and day 3 can actually feel harder than day 1. Why? Because withdrawal symptoms often peak during this period. Headaches may become more noticeable. Energy levels may drop. Some people feel irritable. Others struggle to stay focused at work. And many begin asking themselves one question. Is quitting coffee really worth this? Most Americans don't realize this. The desire for coffee during the first few days isn't always about enjoying the taste. It's often about ending the discomfort. One cup of coffee could make the headache disappear. One cup could bring back that familiar feeling of alertness. And that's exactly why many people return to caffeine before giving their bodies enough time to adjust. But here's what happened next surprised many researchers. For many healthy adults, caffeine withdrawal symptoms don't last forever. They usually improve over the following days as the body adapts. The adjustment period may be uncomfortable, but it is temporary. Now let's talk about something that catches many people completely off guard. Sleep. You might assume that if you're drinking less coffee, you'll immediately sleep better. Sometimes that happens, but not always. During the first few nights, sleep may actually feel a little strange. Your body is adjusting. Your normal routine has changed. You may feel unusually sleepy during the day, yet nighttime sleep doesn't instantly become perfect. That's completely normal. The body often needs time to establish a new rhythm. And here's where patience becomes important. Many people quit too early because they expect instant results. Real change often takes longer than a weekend. But that's not the most surprising part. Because by the end of the first week, something unexpected begins happening for many people. It's subtle at first, easy to miss. But once it starts, many people say they never looked at coffee the same way again. So, you've made it through the first week. The headaches are starting to fade. The cravings aren't quite as intense. And your body is slowly adjusting to life without coffee. At this point, many people expect to feel amazing. But here's the truth. Week 2 can be a little confusing, because this is when your body begins finding a new balance. Some mornings, you may wake up feeling surprisingly refreshed. Other mornings, you might still miss that comforting cup of coffee. That's completely normal. Your brain has spent years adapting to a daily dose of caffeine. It doesn't completely reset overnight. But here's where things get interesting. Many people begin noticing that their energy starts feeling different. Not necessarily higher, just more stable. Think about a roller coaster. When you rely heavily on caffeine, some people experience a quick boost followed by a gradual drop later in the day. That afternoon slump sends them looking for another cup, then another, and the cycle repeats. Without caffeine, many people describe their energy as less dramatic. Instead of sharp highs and noticeable crashes, their energy may begin to feel more consistent throughout the day. But wait, that's not the most surprising part. Because one of the first improvements many people notice has nothing to do with energy. It has to do with sleep. If you've been drinking coffee late in the afternoon or evening, your sleep may have been affected without you even realizing it. Remember earlier when we talked about caffeine staying in the body for several hours? For some people, that afternoon coffee may still be working long after dinner. Even if you fall asleep easily, caffeine may still influence the quality of your sleep. Now, this doesn't happen to everyone. Some people are naturally less sensitive to caffeine. Others can drink coffee after dinner and still sleep soundly. But many people are surprised to discover they feel more rested after reducing or eliminating caffeine. Not because they're sleeping longer, but because their sleep may feel deeper or less interrupted. And here's something most Americans don't realize. Feeling tired isn't always caused by a lack of caffeine. Sometimes, it's caused by a lack of quality sleep. That's an important difference. Coffee can temporarily make you feel more alert, but it doesn't replace the restorative benefits of a good night's sleep. And that's why some people are surprised during week 2. They stop depending on caffeine to wake them up, because they're naturally waking up with more energy. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention. Anxiety. Have you ever had too much coffee and felt your heart racing? Maybe your hands felt shaky. Maybe you felt restless or unusually nervous. For some people, caffeine can increase feelings of alertness so much that it also increases feelings of anxiety. Again, this doesn't happen to everyone. But if you're particularly sensitive to caffeine, reducing it may help you feel calmer throughout the day. Some people notice they're less jittery during meetings, less restless in the afternoon, and less likely to feel that wired but tired sensation at night. But that's not the most surprising part. Because the biggest change often happens where people least expect it. Their relationship with coffee itself. Think about your morning routine. For many people, coffee isn't just a source of caffeine. It's comfort. It's habit. It's the signal that the day has officially begun. Take that away, and you suddenly realize how much of the routine was psychological. Maybe you miss holding the warm mug. Maybe you miss the smell. Maybe you simply miss those quiet 5 minutes before the day gets busy. Interestingly, some people replace coffee with herbal tea, warm lemon water, or simply a few minutes of quiet reflection. Not because those drinks contain magic ingredients, but because the routine itself matters. Now here's something fascinating. Researchers have found that habits are often made up of three parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. For coffee drinkers, waking up is the cue. Making coffee is the routine. Feeling alert is the reward. When you remove coffee, your brain still expects that reward. That's why creating a new morning ritual can make the transition easier. But here's where things become really interesting. By the third week, many people report that the intense cravings have become much weaker. Coffee no longer dominates their thoughts. Walking past a coffee shop doesn't feel nearly as tempting. And for the first time, some people begin asking themselves a surprising question. Did I really need coffee, or did I simply believe I did? That question changes everything. Because once your body adjusts, you may begin seeing coffee differently. Not as something you need, but as something you choose. And that's a powerful shift. But we still haven't talked about the biggest surprise of the entire 30-day experiment. Because it isn't about headaches, it isn't about sleep, and it isn't about cravings. It's about what many people discover during the final week. A discovery that completely changes how they think about caffeine, energy, and their daily routine. Now we've reached the final week of the experiment. And this is where things become the most interesting. Because by day 30, most people aren't thinking about coffee the same way they did on day 1. The constant cravings have usually faded. The morning headaches are gone. The afternoon energy crashes may become less noticeable. And many people begin to realize something surprising. Their body has adapted. But here's the question everyone wants answered. Does quitting coffee actually make you healthier? The honest answer is, not necessarily. And that's probably not what you expected to hear. You see, coffee isn't automatically good, and it isn't automatically bad. In fact, coffee is one of the most studied beverages in the world. Research has linked moderate coffee consumption with several potential health benefits for many adults, including associations with alertness and, in some studies, certain long-term health outcomes. At the same time, coffee isn't the right choice for everyone. Some people are highly sensitive to caffeine. Others experience heartburn. Some notice increased anxiety. Others struggle with poor sleep after even one afternoon cup. The important lesson isn't that everyone should quit coffee. The lesson is that everyone's body responds differently. But wait, that's not the most surprising part. Because many people discover that coffee wasn't actually their biggest source of energy. Their lifestyle was. Think about it. Imagine someone sleeps only 5 hours every night, skips breakfast, rarely exercises, feels stressed all day, then drinks 3 large cups of coffee. The coffee may temporarily help them feel more awake, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem. Now imagine that same person starts sleeping 7 to 8 hours, gets morning sunlight, stays active during the day, eats balanced meals, and manages stress more effectively. Suddenly, they may not feel as dependent on coffee anymore. That's because caffeine works best as a supplement to healthy habits, not a replacement for them. And here's something most Americans don't realize. One of the biggest benefits of quitting coffee for 30 days isn't the absence of caffeine. It's awareness. For the first time in years, you get to see how your body feels without it. How's your sleep? How's your mood? How's your focus? How's your energy? How's your digestion? Once you understand your body's natural baseline, you can make a much more informed decision. Some people choose to stay caffeine-free. Others decide to bring coffee back, but in smaller amounts. Maybe just 1 cup in the morning. Maybe only on weekdays. Maybe switching from 3 cups a day to 1. And for many people, that balance works perfectly. Now let's talk about one mistake people often make after completing a 30-day challenge. They celebrate by drinking several large coffees in one day. After weeks without caffeine, your tolerance may be lower. That means the same amount of coffee could feel much stronger than before. Some people notice jitters, a racing heart, difficulty sleeping, or increased nervousness. If you decide to drink coffee again, easing back into it gradually may be more comfortable than jumping straight back to old habits. Now here's another fascinating point. Many people think coffee addiction is only physical, but for a lot of people, it's emotional. It's connected to routines. Morning conversations. Coffee breaks with coworkers. Weekend cafe visits. Reading the newspaper with a warm mug in your hands. The drink becomes part of your identity. And that's why giving it up can feel more difficult than expected. Not because your body desperately needs coffee, but because your routine has changed. The good news? Routines can change, and new habits can feel just as rewarding over time. Now, let's quickly review what many people experience during a 30-day coffee break. Days 1 through 3. Withdrawal symptoms may begin. Headaches, fatigue, difficulty concentrating. Days 4 through 7. For many people, withdrawal symptoms begin improving. Cravings become less intense. Week 2. Energy may begin stabilizing. Sleep quality may improve for some individuals. Week 3. Coffee becomes less of a daily necessity and more of a choice. Many people notice fewer cravings. By day 30, you have a much clearer understanding of how caffeine affects your own body. And that's incredibly valuable, because no article, no social media post, and no YouTube video can tell you exactly how your body will respond. Only your own experience can do that. Now here's the biggest takeaway from today's video. Coffee isn't the hero, and it isn't the villain. It's simply a tool. For some people, that tool fits perfectly into a healthy lifestyle. For others, reducing caffeine or taking occasional breaks may help them sleep better, feel calmer, or better understand their own energy patterns. The goal isn't to fear coffee. The goal is to make intentional choices. Because when you're aware of how something affects your body, you're in a much better position to decide what's right for you. So before you pour your next cup of coffee, ask yourself one simple question. Am I drinking this because I truly enjoy it, or because I feel like I can't function without it? That one question may tell you more than any 30-day challenge ever could. Now, I'd love to hear from you. If you stopped drinking coffee for 30 days, do you think you could do it? Or have you already tried it? Share your experience in the comments below. I read as many comments as possible, and your story might encourage someone else who's thinking about making the same challenge. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more evidence-based videos on healthy aging, nutrition, sleep, and everyday wellness. Thank you for watching. Take care of your health. Enjoy your next cup if you choose to have one. And I'll see you in the next video.